Ladies and gentlemen, we have live, not on the phone, but live here, Roger Kitchen Jr., owner of Power Mental Performance. He's a mental skills coach. Welcome to the show, Raj.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
And his son, Trey, sitting over there in the shade.
Shout out to Trey.
Shout out to Trey. Absolutely. He shows up. You got to give him a plug.
That's right.
Absolutely. So you've said off the air that you work with high school players and UAH hockey,
right,
people like that. What kind of, when you go to talk to them, what do you say? You know, hey, I'm a power skills coach, or I'm a power mental performance guy, or how do you approach it when you bring this to a potential person that you can help?
Typically, when I walk in and talk with a coach or team, I'll address it from the sense that, are your players performing at a high level mentally, or do they have a lot of self-confidence? Can they stay focused over long periods of time? How are they doing performing under pressure? Are they choking? Are they working through those intense emotions and those high-pressure situations? Can they achieve their goals for the team and individually? And so 9 times out of 10, when I talk to a coach, they'll say, I've got 3 or 4 athletes. They're struggling with one of those 4. And so when I come in and I talk to them, I say, look, I can help individual players think about the right thing at the right time all the time and perform in those high-pressure situations. And I can help your team collectively do the same thing. Think about it. Sports, any sport, name it. Basketball, track and field.
Racing,
all 90% mental.
Well, I deal with football players a lot, and they sometimes they just lose their focus, Rod.
They do.
And they know what to do. The coach has got them prepared to play, and then they go out there and they just forget what they're supposed to run, this route, that route. It's just
right.
And a lot of times it's just mental. They just I forgot, coach.
What I see with a lot of the players I work with, they have a tendency to focus on things they can't control. So when you think about their given sport, let's use basketball. Trey plays basketball. It's really easy to, when the ref blows a call.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
To lose it.
Yeah, you're right.
And in those moments, you can't lose it.
No.
And then you're focusing on things you can't control, which is the ref.
Yeah.
Go play your arch rival.
Oh yes.
And you walk into their gym or on their football field or wherever you're at, whatever your sport is, baseball stadium, track and field, when you walk into your arch rival's home, it's easy. The fans can get you distracted, and you're focusing on everything you can't control. Yeah. So I give athletes tips and techniques. We teach them, focus on the things that you can control. What is it that you need to put your attention on play after play? And then I try to coach the athletes to slow the game down. So it's one snap at a time, one pitch at a time. It's one play at a time. And that's, when you start training athletes to slow their mind down, focus on what they can control, it gets 10 times easier.
And that's a great point because, besides the things you can't control, by slowing the game down, if you're looking ahead, if you're at bat and you're looking ahead 2 pitches, or you know what I mean,
right?
Then you do lose focus on that particular pitch that's coming at you,
right?
Or whether it be a football player or inbounds play from basketball or whatever. So, I like that. And besides working with athletes, do you ever work with corporations? I assume and
right.
And
so
them?
By day, my job is I work at NASA, so I coach high-performing teams, and I work with business leaders and senior leaders there on Redstone Arsenal at NASA. So that's my day job, and then outside of work, I work as, like I said, a mental skills coach, working with all sports, all types of athletes here in North Alabama.
University of Alabama, I think Coach Saban, probably, I know he wasn't the first, but he was one of the first to bring in somebody. And
Dr. Kevin Elko,
and I know you're familiar with him.
Right.
And you could see from the time that they brought him in to the performance just went up.
Right.
So, I mean, coaches are just it's almost silly not to bring in you and to talk to their kids, like you said, whether individually or as a team. I like the team concept, even though you might have that one individual, 2 or 3 that are struggling with a particular thing, but still have you talk to the whole team, because you're right, I mean, it is 98% mental, and if you can control that part of it, man, performance just goes up so much.
It does, and typically my entry in with a team is with the team. So I do a lot of workshops, one-on-one clinics with teams, and I teach them the basic concepts of mental skills, how it can help them in performance, how can it help them as a team. Because really, Nick Saban's a master at it. He has produced and put together the right culture. Yeah. So for him, culture is everything. What's his name? The process.
Yeah. The process.
So he has instituted a process lives and dies by it. He's got the right culture in place. And when you have that and you bring in a guy like Elko, they're just racking up championships. I mean, they're running through people because he recognizes how much the mental game impacts performance.
I mean, I heard him I get to go to Alabama football coaching clinics every year, and Dr. Elko was one of the speakers this year. And just for that 15 to 30 minutes of listening to him, he had me fired up. I mean, I'm just sitting there. I'm a volunteer assistant. I don't, non-paying job. But he had me so fired up I wanted to run through a brick wall right then, because just the things he brings in, and I'm sure that's what you try to do. Yeah. And you talk about team sport. Do a lot of parents, do you say, hey, my son or daughter's having problems with this? Do you work with a lot of individuals?
Right. A lot of my coaching is with one-on-one individuals. So I'm, from an academic perspective, parents need to look at me as like a tutor for their son or their daughter. And so I do coaching one-on-one, set up an agreement with the parents, and then I work with the athlete one-on-one. Perfect example, I was working with a football player here in the area last year, and they wanted to quit their sport. I mean, by the end of their junior year, they were done.
I've seen a bunch like that.
And so the football coach reached out to me and said, hey, Roger, I got a kid you need to work with. The dad's going to contact you. Sure enough, within a day, I talked to the father. Long story short, I worked with that player through the football season once a week. They went from wanting to quit their sport at the end of their junior year to being all-state honorable mention.
That's pretty good.
And I know you have a lot of folks who struggle with maybe not enough confidence. Do you ever have to rein some folks in?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. So the pendulum swings both ways mentally, right? So you can have a kid that I just talked about that's ready to quit their sport. They're beating themselves up. They're miserable. They're ready to tap out. And then you have players on the other end. They're cocky. They're arrogant. They're not good team players. They're a problem in the locker room. Yep. They're the high school version of Terrell Owens. And it's just like, you got to pull them in. And sometimes with them, you have to be direct, and you have to really challenge them, and you've got to coach them on the right behavior and how it impacts the climate. Because a lot of times those guys are actually performing at a high level, and so they feel like, well, my performance justifies my behavior.
But no, it does not.
No, when it's killing your team or the locker room, you need to, the coach needs to, like Nick Saban doesn't put up with that.
No, he doesn't care how good you are.
Think about the basketball teams of old. Phil Jackson didn't put up with that. Bobby Knight, those guys, Bill Belichick is a great example of a guy that builds the right culture. Players know exactly what's expected of them when they go in. Yeah, perfect.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, going back to that previous, we were talking about you working with individuals and parents bringing them in. I would think that most likely, so these kids, I think, aren't benefiting just athletically. But a lot of what you do probably helps them academically, socially,
absolutely,
and everything else. So, for those that are listening, I'd recommend reaching out to you because, you're not just changing your child's or young man's or young lady's performance on the athletic field. You're, doing them a service across the board.
Right. This is a life skill. Yeah. So James Clemens hired me to be their mental skills coach with several teams last year.
Awesome.
And I got a good relationship with Rocky Smith, the AD, and then Dr. Clayton, the principal. And they brought me back twice to work with students that are taking standardized tests. So they had me take what I learned in the sports world and from a mental skills perspective and then roll it into the classroom. So I've done mental skills coaching for students taking standardized tests.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I worked with I was just over there about a month ago and over their lunch period for an hour, and I had about 100 juniors and seniors in the auditorium, and then just give them a simple plan of how to deal with test anxiety. That's a huge thing.
It is huge, yeah.
Test anxiety is a huge
stress.
Yep.
Right, so there's a lot of kids that just don't take tests well.
Yep.
And so I was teaching them concepts on how to be able to relax in those moments so that everything you've studied comes back to you and you're able to take, whether it's just a test in history or you're taking the ACT.
Yeah, because that's a great point. Most of the time they know the information, but their anxiety's so high they just cannot, like you said, take that test.
And it's the same thing with athletes. They've practiced and practiced and practiced, and when they get inside their head, they put too much pressure on themselves and they start focus on things they can't control. The anxiety erases all that muscle memory. The idea is we're trying to get the brain to relax so that all that muscle memory and all that practice comes right back to play in the moment that they need it.
I just had my cousin text me, said he might want to get his son involved talking to you. So how do people get in touch with you?
So 2 ways. I'm on Facebook at Power Mental Performance. That's Facebook, Power Mental Performance. And then anybody can call me or text 256-698-6389.
Okay. Hey, real quick. So, Zach, if you don't mind, hand Trey your headset. I got a question for Trey. If he don't mind. I guess I should ask first, buddy.
That's all right.
So, how tough, and he's not even listening right now. All right, Dad's not listening. How tough is it living with a man that's so mentally strong and teaches others to be that? Obviously, you benefit from it. But,
yeah.
Are you able to help some of your classmates and stuff just by some of your dad's techniques?
Oh yeah, like I try to help all my teammates on the basketball court because like when they get like upset or like when they like start to mess up, I'm like, dude, it's okay.
Yeah,
just calm down.
That's great, and they need that, man. Where do you go to school?
I go to school in Zealand Christian Academy.
Okay. I should have known that.
Trey plays basketball there.
Yeah. I've seen him.
Very good team.
Yeah, very good team.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we want to thank y'all for joining us. We've already got behind a little bit, but we're doing good, and we want to thank you so much for coming on, Roger.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
We've got your phone number.
Yeah, anytime.
Area code 256-698-6389. Power Mental Performance. Find them on Facebook. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Applebee's Tailgate Talk live at Lindsay Lane Baptist Church.